Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another week of the Live Life Aggressively podcast. This is Sincere Hogan, and on the other line, got my buddy Mike Mahler. What's going on, my man?
All right. Oh, I'm doing great. I'm super excited about our guest today. As always, we were just talking to her for a few minutes before we started recording. Super cool lady, very interesting. A lot of common interest, actually. So we have all kinds of things we can talk about: training, nutrition, music. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I got some buddies.
Things to talk about.
I got some buddies that are going to be geeking out on this. So I'm officially turning off fanboy mode here, and I'm just going to be the podcast host. So
let's just do a quick promo about our course. Let people know what the status is on that, and then we'll
get right to
start talking to our guest. Absolutely. Yep. Okay, folks. Remember, we have the ultimate course coming up in September. The Live Life Aggressively Summit, September 2021. Same weekend as Mr. Olympia here in Vegas. It's going to be Sincere Hogan, Ken Blackburn, Steve Cotter, and myself. Kettlebells, bodyweight training, program design. 8 hours each day, and we're going to make this a real Las Vegas experience. I want everyone staying in a super nice hotel that I'm going to be getting a group discount on. We're going to have shuttles running people to the venue, running you to the strip. We're looking at extracurricular activities, dinners, different clubs, possibly. We're just going to create a real Las Vegas experience. It's not going to be something where you come out and you train with the coaches and then everyone leaves. You don't get a chance to talk to any of the instructors. Everyone goes back to the Econo Lodge and they're watching reruns of TJ Hooker all night. All right, that's not going to be the experience. We want a real fun event here. And right now, you can get into the course for $799.95. That's our special to you, the podcast listeners. 32 of you have already taken advantage of that. We only have 8 spots left. Now, assuming we don't sell out the course by the end of April, we're going to go into May and increase the price to $1199.95. So if you sign up right now, you get in $400, you get with a $400 discount, and you also ensure that you're actually going to get into the course.
Right.
Because we only have 8 spots left. And remember, we haven't promoted this course on any of our social media, any of our websites. We've only talked about it to you guys, the podcast listeners. And we have people coming in from Australia, UK, Saudi Arabia, all over the US. We're definitely going to get those 8 spots before the end of the month. If we don't, I don't mind, because I want to increase the price so that we can make more off the rest of the students. We only have 8 spots left. So that's no hurry to get that thing sold out by September.
So all you have to do is just email Mike or myself. So Mike at llapodcast.com or Sincere at llapodcast.com. Say, hey, man, send me the link. I'm ready to sign up and get into the course before everyone else. And we'll send you that link and get you in there. And it's just that simple.
It's just that simple. So make sure you take charge of that today. And without further ado, let's get into our guest. Sincere, I know you're a super fan of this lady. So let's have you jump on. Let's have you get this whole process.
Well, first of all, I want to say welcome to our guest, Amy Dumas, better known as Lita, formerly of the WWE, retired, and also recent Hall of Famer. How you doing?
Hey, we were having fun before we went online, and then I had to sit out and while you guys were pros. I'm ready to jump back in with you guys.
Well, first of all, happy belated birthday to you. First of all.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Just celebrated your birthday, and you've had a pretty kick-ass month. As a matter of fact, you had birthday, got inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's a pretty awesome month going for you right there, lady.
Man, it was crazy. My life is fairly, it's as chill as I would kind of like it to be, and then I went thrust into kind of prepping for that and doing a bunch of other podcasts and media and being Lita as opposed to just being Amy. And I was like, whoa, this is a little bit crazy. But I'll say I had a really great time all the way from when the office called me and told me they wanted to induct me this year up until, all through the weekend and everything. It was super, super fun.
Tell us how you got interested in professional wrestling in the first place.
Let's see. I need a Cliff Notes version.
I'm sitting thinking, how can you sum this up, within the confines of our show? Because I know it's a lot.
Yeah, So my summing up version is I played in bands and I studied martial arts before. Mm-hmm. And I was never into wrestling. I didn't grow up with wrestling. My boyfriend at the time that was their dude thing they would do is watch wrestling. Of course, I'd poke my head in there and ask a question or say something, and then next thing you know, I'm sucked in watching it. But I started watching it from a fan person, from a professional standpoint. I was like, man, it's like being a rock star and an athlete, but in one job. And so my boyfriend's band went on tour for 6 weeks, and I said, well, I'm not going to sit at home. If you're going on tour for 6 weeks, I'm going to go down to Mexico and I'm going to figure out how to do this. So I just jumped a plane down there, hit the streets, asked where the Lucha Libre was, wouldn't go away until they finally let me trained, and then just, kind of if I could go to any indie show or get to any training school that I thought I might learn something, might get something on tape, might get to my next little baby step to becoming an actually, professional wrestler, I would do it. And so I did that. And WWE finally saw a video that they saw promise in and signed me. And then, it's kind of off to the races from there.
Now, you got to say, you went right to the hardcore place to get started. Yeah, I mean, going to Mexico, with the Lucha Libres, that's hardcore right there. People, I don't think anyone's ever sat there on a Saturday or a Sunday and watched Lucha Libre on Telemundo or Univision and realized, like, first of all, it seems like those matches last forever. And pretty much, you see people coming out of the crowd. You see the fans jumping in there and they're fighting with the wrestlers. So that's how hardcore it is down there, man. One thing.
Well, and there's no barricades. So
no,
they're doing dives and they're just landing on you. I love it. Like, in the third world, in anywhere but the United States, people don't sue people for something that was their own fault in the first place, tripping on the sidewalk crack and then suing the city. It's like, pick your foot up, So,
exactly.
So yeah, they're just sitting in the front row. It's like, you're in the front row at a wrestling show. A wrestler's going to land on you. That's the way it goes.
Exactly.
So,
got little kids throwing popcorn in the wrestlers' faces and everything because they.
Can I tell you? I had a friend who was a fan, and I was like, I'm going to get you the best souvenir that's in existence. And so there was a match. It was the main event, and the wrestler was totally just bloody, just a whole face bleeding, and people are throwing money into the ring for tips, so they're just throwing, or the little kids are bringing up pesos and stuff. And so I brought money for a tip and the flyer from the night. And I asked the guy to rub his face on the flyer. And I sent my friend a bloody fly. I was like, dude, I just went to the coolest thing ever. And the next best thing to being there is the coolest souvenir that I could have given you. So.
It's a bloody flyer. And I'm not trying to use a British accent when I say this either.
Right.
Oh, man.
Now, Amy, were you following a plant-based diet when you were in the WWE?
I was up until probably I got on the road. And then at that point, let's see. So that was 99.
99, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't feel educated enough and to be able to be making healthy choices. So I reluctantly started eating meat because I felt like my choice at Wendy's at, midnight was French fries at the time, or whatever. And so from age 14 to 24, I was. And then after I retired, I just about 80% went back to being vegetarian without even thinking about it. And I was like, well, wait a minute, that's where you were before. And that's where I naturally gravitate to, or I'm more comfortable with. Went back to that. But then of course, just education is so much easier, and you can Google, where the closest vegan restaurant is. And it's just so much easier to be healthy and plant-based and still strong and everything.
Yeah, with one of the current superstars of WWE, Bryan Danielson, a.k.a. Daniel Bryan, he was also, for a while, he was straight vegan, I think in 2009. But then, just like you said, it was very hard for him to make the right choices while he was on the road, which now, it's 10 years later from when you started. It's a little easier now. But he says that he had a real difficult time, so now he's going back to being pretty much vegetarian now. So it's really hard to take that excuse to heart now. Like you said, it's just so much information out there. It's not that hard. I mean, dude, you got.
He eats meat. So I'm outing him.
Boom. Okay, busted. Okay.
Now, a lot of people try it because it sounds like something trendy to do, right? Oh, this whole vegan thing sounds interesting, and then they'll try it for a week or two, and then. That's it.
Right.
He said he had a soy.
I'm not outing him as a jerk. I'm just saying, because especially so you go and he was vegan, and you go and you do an interview, and then that interview is out and circulating around, and then you Google, is Bryan Daniels, vegan, and the interview, and it's going to come up. So I'm not saying he was when he said he was, but he's not, so. But yeah, no, it's and it can be tough on the European tours that we do, because you have the meals. They cater for you, and it's it's fine, and you can make do. But now for me, the way I travel, because it is so easy now for the most part, and easy to be prepared, you can just go in prepared. And then, so I'll have like a day here or there that I just consider inconvenient, but it's like, whatever, it's only today because I'm in this weird town that I don't know anything in. I'll
Right.
have like this dried trail mix, and it's whatever, like just get through it. It's fine, and then but it's not anything that I would break my beliefs for.
I think any major city in the U.S., it's pretty easy now. But you get into rural America, it can be difficult. And I travel a lot, too, for my line of work. And some of the countries I've been to, it can be somewhat difficult. There's always ways to make it work, but it can be a little bit more challenging. So like you said, you want to be prepared. Now, is this something that – how did you get into the whole vegetarian thing to start with? Was it part of the punk rock music you were listening to? Yeah, that's right. Because that's how it was for me as well. So I'm curious to hear that story.
Yeah, I mean, that was just, the main band, I would say, and it's just like, oh, thank God this was the main band, because it turned me into like a good human, as opposed to like potentially many other bands that I could have deemed my parents, my church, my advisors, everything in life. But it was 7 Seconds, and they just kind of preach a positive life, and just, but really, because I was never like, there's all these offsets of punk, and they're like vegan punks and straight edge punks and straight edge hardcore, and I was just kind of always like, I'm just me, so I don't want to put rules on anything. And I mean, it's the same, it goes into fitness. I'm like, I'm not RKC, or I'm not Strong First, I'm not this, I'm like, I want to lift heavy shit and be strong.
Right.
That's what I am, so but so anyways, but that the 7 Seconds, kind of their message overall was like that, and it was just like, be positive, don't be a jerk. You can change things, figure out ways to do it. And so I was just, and my main reason for vegetarianism then and now is I don't want anyone to do my dirty work for me. If I couldn't do it myself, why do I want, I couldn't, grab a chicken and break its neck and pluck it and eat it. So why should I have the luxury, if that's what I would deem a luxury, to have somebody else do that for me?
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would feel the same way, honestly, if they had to do that. A lot of it's easy to compartmentalize that when you go to the grocery store and you buy an end product without thinking of the whole process that got it there.
People start having these food wars and diet wars, and I choose this, I choose that. I always tell, especially when people kind of go like, okay, well, we need meat. I'm like, have you ever gone out and killed your own food? I'm thinking like, anyone that sits there and professes that, you should do that once, and then just see how you actually feel about that. See how you feel about that after that. And then if anything comes down to it, you'll be a lot less greedy and not just waste so much food. So many people waste so much food because they are so detached from the whole process. And it just,
absolutely. I have such an attachment even to my vegetables. Like, I'm going out of town in 2 days, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to make so many things, and before I will not let it go to waste.
Magic bullet time. It's like, I gotta make a shake. I gotta blend this up before it goes bad.
Right. That's what I'll tell people. I'm like, they're like, well, but then my veggies go bad. I'm like, throw it in the juicer, throw it in your Vitamix, but yeah, I get it. I get like I feel like it's probably a little past healthy, and I mean mentally healthy, but like, I'm like, no, my vegetables, they can't spoil. Like, I must consume them, or I'm like calling my friends. I'm like, can you please come over? I've got 2 bushels of kale and some Swiss chard in the refrigerator. Like, it's going to go bad before I get back. Yeah, I guess it's fine. And it's not about the $6 that it costs to buy those 3 things. It's about like the time and the energy and the resources that went into producing those things. And I don't want to just throw it back in the trash. It's irresponsible.
Yeah, I don't like seeing waste either. I see that at a lot of the Las Vegas buffets where people go in and they stack.
A lot of Las Vegas.
Oh God.
Yeah, exactly. They stack the seafood all the way to the ceiling.
I'm like, who are you feeding? I see 2 people at the table, but I see a table full of crawfish. I'm like, who else is coming right now? What the heck?
I don't like seeing gluttonous behavior, right? People just stuffing their faces and all that. It's very distasteful. So I never go to Las Vegas buffets to eat, because one, I don't think it's not good value for me, because I'm not going to blow through that much food, number one. And number 2, I just don't like seeing that. But number 3 is the amount of wasted food in places like that has got to be immense.
I always wonder.
You could probably feed Somalia completely with all the food.
Have you seen that movie Dive? That documentary Dive?
No.
It's about a family. They're kind of like a hipster family, and they meet, but their documentary is on wastefulness, and so they go to do grocery stores, dumpsters.
Oh yeah.
They feed themselves off of just food that's been being thrown out. And it's amazing just and trying to go, hey, can we bring this to a shelter to, and just like the lack of effort being like, nope, it's easier for us to throw it in the trash than drive it 3 miles.
There's also liability issues, unfortunately, with that.
Yeah,
we're such a contentious society, like you were talking about. And if they give the food away and then the homeless guy gets sick, he can sue, and that's happened before. So unfortunately,
but he can't now because Bill Clinton passed an act, and so anything that's from a shelter or anything that's donated, and you cannot, can't sue.
Okay.
So if they take it to a shelter, but if the homeless guy comes to, let's say, Little Caesars at closing time,
exactly,
okay. Even there, it's protected. They're protected if they just give it away to him, or they have to take it to a shelter and then he gets it there.
Yeah, I'm not up on the specifics about that, but I do know if something's donated or it's through a shelter or a nonprofit that you can't be sued, which is that's like a huge bill that probably goes unnoticed, but that's a big thing that can contribute to helping to not be so wasteful. And I mean, just it's so much worse with meat of like how many resources was taken to have to create that meat and then it going back into the landfill and then creating gases, and it's so wasteful. It's horrible.
Yeah, I came up through a similar experience. The Cro-Mags and Bad Brains were very influential on my philosophy at the time, really got me into vegetarianism. And then I actually went on to get a degree in religious studies to a large extent from a lot of the music that I was influenced by at the time. So it's interesting how that time period really influenced a lot of us, because I've heard many people say the same thing.
Yeah, one of my best friends does the same thing. Same thing. It was the same influence from Bad Brains, and he's been a vegan since.
Yeah, with the Hare Krishna and Rastafari, like religious influences within punk rock subcultures and stuff. It brought it a lot of awareness to a big group of kids that wouldn't. I mean, I feel like that's generationally, like the hardcore kids now. I feel like the hardcore kids now eat at Chick-fil-A. I'm like, dude, it's like homophobic Christian meat that you're eating.
That's
like,
hardcore in a different way, right? There's like that's really extreme when you're eating that peanut oil, hating-faced food. It's just like,
well, I'm like, what? If punk rock and hardcore, like you're supposed to be a counterculture, like what are you the counterculture to? Like to what? Like, like you just listen to different music than other Christian homophobes. Like that's I feel like that some of that message was lost as punk rock and hardcore kind of spread out over the generations.
Yeah, I think now it's more C and B scene, right? Like you want to have a certain image.
Statement.
Yeah,
look at me. I'm punk. I'm punk rock. Look at me. It's like, well, that right there goes show you're not punk rock. You're asking people to look at you. You're caring about what they think, if they even care about looking at you or whatever. So that already goes against everything right there. So yeah, it's just another thing that's been commercialized. But you also have the big stores and all that have like tapped into that as well. So you see a lot of those groups from during that era. Now you see their T-shirts popping up in like Target and PacSun and all these, which is totally not punk rock. Okay.
No, for sure.
T-shirt at Target.
Yeah, like
and what's the other store? Not Torrid, but they're Torrid little brother of the other store. Hot Topic. Yeah. So same.
You were acting like, what is that store?
I'm the guy with the 15-year-old daughter, and I'm the one that's like, why are you going into that store buying that shirt? Do you even know who that band is? So.
It's like H2O has a quote. One of those, it's a fashion, like ironically talking fashion before passion, and it's like just how things have changed now. Before because it wasn't cool to be a punk rocker, so you weren't going to go out of your way to attach to that culture unless you felt that's where you belonged. And
you had jocks at high school trying to kick your butt every day. I mean, when I was in high school with my dreadlocks and I wasn't so much of a punk rocker, but I was really into that New York City hardcore scene, and then bands like Bad Brains, DC hardcore scene too. I mean, you got a lot of flack for that back then. Just walking around, living your life, you got a lot of flack.
Oh, absolutely. And then also too, because everything I feel like wasn't so neatly defined into subcultures as it is now, because I really feel like because of social media, or not social media, but just like media and internet and everything in general, you can kind of put yourself into a smaller box. But it was always, when I was in high school, it was just like the freaks, which meant even as far as like the thespians and the pot smokers and the hippies and the hardcore dudes and the punk rockers and we were all over here, and then like the jocks and cheerleaders, normal kids were like over there. Right. So it was just like any subculture, like was us against them, but now it's so like, oh well, the emo kids don't like the punk kids and the hardcore kids don't like the, it's
which is funny.
Dude, like we're the, be the minority together. So whatever,
Right.
or don't, or just be your own person, and that's kind of how I live.
Exactly.
But I think that was a really important time period in my life because it when you're a teenager, most people just go with the flow because they don't want to deal with any flack from the herd. So that's what most.
Well, sure, and I mean, think about when you're a teenager and you just want to sit back and develop and go like, I'm not actually sure how I feel, so let me see what my choices are. But when you go and take a stand, it definitely says something about who you are.
I think it made it easier for me as I got older to keep carving my own path and not just fall into group pressure. So when you can do it as a young person, it's very difficult because you don't really know who you are yet. You don't have that confidence yet. But then it's when you develop it then and it starts evolving over time, I think it made it a lot easier for me to get into industries that other people never would have got into. Like when I started teaching kettlebells, nobody was teaching. No one thought you could make a living teaching kettlebells. This is 2002. And people were just gravitating towards safe jobs. If you got into fitness, they would just go to a gym and start training. It wasn't like it is now where people are leveraging the internet so much to do a lot of different things. But I never had that fear-based mindset of worrying about stuff like that. I didn't care what people thought or whether people thought I could make it work.
Sure. I mean, that's how I felt like how I became a professional wrestler, because I was a punk rocker and my favorite bands, like the equivalent of maybe like some cheerleader being like Michael Jackson is my favorite band, or whoever was like,
Paula Abdul.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like let's find the right genre, like generation.
Debbie Gibson, Tiffany.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Like, okay, so my Paula Abdul was 7 seconds, and 7 seconds played like they just got into a van and they're like, all right, thank you, good night. Hold on, we'll be at the merch booth in 2 minutes after I drink a glass of water.
Right.
I had the merch booth. And so there was no divide between somebody being a celebrity or somebody being better than me or able to achieve something that I couldn't achieve. So, I mean, that was like, okay, 6 months sitting in a garage practicing guitar. Like that was all that was going to take. So, I mean, it just always made like, I can do whatever I want to do. These people do. And these people are like the coolest possible people in my world.
Right.
So, I mean, that I think played a big part in my success.
No, you're right. When I went to go to Chromac shows in 1988, 89, I mean, you were hanging out with the band before they went on. Whoever opened up for them, the Chromac, Harley and John, they would be in the audience, just hanging out with everybody. They were totally accessible, which was way different than seeing Metallica or Iron Maiden or Ozzy Osbourne. Not that any of those are bad guys. It was just going to a stadium. That's a much different experience than going to a small club, which is way more intimate. Once I started going to club shows, I never went back to stadium shows because it was such a better experience. And then that accessibility I always thought was really cool. And John Joseph made a point of saying that. He said he wanted it to be where whether you're on stage or in the audience, you're all part of the same medium. And that was a really interesting philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like and that kind of defined punk rock. It was like I happened to be getting in a van and drove here, but we are all in this together, but it was like we as individuals though too, are all in this is together. And that mentality, I mean, and it's surely, yes, that mentality helped define me, but if you attach to that mentality too, that says something about who you are just biologically, regardless of your subculture that you're in, and leads you to be more of a leader than a sheep.
Yeah. I mean, you can see a lot of that even when you were wrestling in the WWE. Same thing. You would come out, you win your matches, you go right out into the crowd, you're hanging out with the fans. You wouldn't afraid to like pick up a kid and say hello or anything like that. You see a lot of wrestlers, they just finish their match and they'll leave. They go back up the ramp and go back to the back again amongst their peers. But then you had some who were just, especially back then during the Attitude Era, right around, that was like, to me, that was the greatest era in wrestling. After that, it just seems like, okay, what's the point of watching now?
That was the greatest era in wrestling.
Because it was a punk rock attitude era at the same time. It's just like, it was a big F you to the boss and all that. So it's like they really played off of that. The timing was perfect. And honestly, there's just no way they can ever recreate that, which is good. They shouldn't ever try to recreate that. But at the same time, it was the peak. It's like, how are you going to top this era right here? I mean, just how are you going to beat that? At this point.
Well, I mean, and that's like said, like you can't recreate that, and
especially those of us that were there, you better not try to recreate that.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like, and because it happened organically because of the Monday Night Wars, and like both sides, both WCW and WWF at the time, were like, we need to be the better participant, and so they're like, all right, guys, like punk rock, come on, we're in this together. What do we do to make this show better? Like, give it to me, like, give us your ideas. And the bosses on both sides would be like, all right, I don't know if that'll work, give it a try, and so we'd go out there, and you would fail sometimes, and you would succeed sometimes, but when you succeeded, it was like a special moment happened.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And we were given that opportunity to have that special moment, as opposed to now I just feel like things are controlled a lot more, so they're like, no, that's
so
not
safe.
how we do this, and at the same time they're like, nope, we have this formula, we have our sponsors, we know how to get these ratings, and this is what we're going to get. Which is not a bad formula either. It's kind of like it's now an Ozzy Osbourne concert as opposed to some second show.
It's very safe now. But I talked to Mike about this before. You've got so many people with like different aspirations now. You had Linda McMahon, who was trying to run for Congress at one time. So of course they kind of had to clean some things up in order to make that more viable for her to do something like that. But on the flip side of that, when we talk about how organic it was back then, you got to talk about one organization who pretty much led the charge, though. That was like ECW. I mean, their entire reign before it got bought up by the WWE, that entire reign of ECW before that, when they were independent, that was a punk rock phase right there. Because
it was lawless.
Because Heyman just
lawless.
said, "Do it, just do it. Let's just do it." They were doing some of the most outlandish stuff out there. You're like, wow. You spent almost every episode saying, did that just happen? Did Tommy Dreamer just really jump off the second, the second tier and down into the crowd and do a somersault? Did that just happen? So you had this extreme. It lived up to the name. It lived up to the name.
Yeah, I remember when I was there, and I'd see them pull the gurney and the up right next to gorilla position, right before the position that you go out right before you wrestle your matches. And it of course, I was new at the time. I was there right before, for the 6 months, about right before I started with WWE. And I would look at that thing. Some people, they have their ritual, like they'll pray or they'll do whatever.
Right.
I would look at that thing right before the show would start. I would say, I really hope no one has to go out on that. Like that was, because it was
right.
Chances are they will. And every night when I would leave, I would look at that thing again, hopefully, because it wasn't wheeled out with a person, and be like, cool, I'm glad that none of my friends got wheeled out on that tonight. And that was always my ritual that I would do with ECW. Right.
I mean, sometimes you think dude, there's just no way. When they just get ready to set up for a move, you're like, there's no way he's going to do that. And then you're thinking oh God. But it was kind of a Roman gladiator type situation, because as a people, we're so bloodthirsty. You see that stuff, and it was a lot of oh shit moments. And then that's what you would hear after it would happen. You'd hear the crowd actually say that the entire time. You're like, dude, I can't. It's like, I can't believe he's getting ready to do that, but I hope he does it. And in their mind, thinking okay, he could actually die from this. But dude, it would be awesome if he actually lives through it. But then when someone actually gets hurt, like you have a situation like an Owen Hart, then all of a sudden for about 5 minutes, everybody's like, okay, that was unnecessary. That didn't have to happen until the next night. Then all of a sudden,
but if it had gone
the other way, exactly, oh shit, yeah,
and loved it and talking about it,
exactly. Yeah. And speaking of that, that's another thing I want to talk about. So many, the trend for years has been so many of these professional wrestlers, even after they retired, dying at such a young age. Hell, case in point, you just had the Hall of Fame inductees happening just a couple of weeks ago. You had the Ultimate Warrior, and he comes out. He gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. Then the next night is WrestleMania. Then the next night he comes out on Raw. And then and I actually just watched that episode of Raw last night one more time. And it was almost like it was like foreshadowing. You could kind of just see that something was off when he came out. When he came out, you could see him, the way he was sweating, the way he was shaking. It's like you kind of knew, but it was almost like he needed that closure for some reason. It's almost like when he was talking, he was pretty much saying okay, I'm done. That's all I need. Now I'm good. And then the next day, he dies of a massive heart attack. Dude was only 54 years old. And you have so many of these other wrestlers died in their 40s and their 30s and dying from heart attacks. You had Test, and all these guys died in such a young age. I know you worked a lot with Test when you were first coming up as well. And it's just crazy. It's like what has, I don't know how to put it, but what has helped you get through all those years, man, and just not leave it sooner when all people are just dying left and right because they work so hard, being on the road almost 300 days a year. And, how did you just pretty much stay healthy other than the injuries that come along with the job? But how did you stay mentally healthy throughout all that when you just have people just dying left and right? It can shake you up. You're like, you know what? Maybe I'm done with this, For sure.
Well, ironically speaking, Okay, so when I, was growing up and in middle school and high school and going to shows, I mean, and that was, like I said, that was everything to me, was going to shows. It was my parents, my religion, my counseling, my everything was going to these punk rock shows. And any band that came through, I wanted to be there. It was like, I prided myself on being at every single show. But my parents, they wouldn't let me go to, if I ever came, were to got taken home by the cops or ever shown up with a black eye or anything like that, I would have not been allowed to go. And so for me to be able to go, I was always like, I always hung out with the bad kids, but I was never a bad kid. So when there'd be these big skinhead versus the punkers fights, I would be like, yep, time to go, and like, I would have, like, as soon as I just saw it brewing, I was out. And so, because I was like, I can't be coming home with a black eye. It can't happen. So that being said, I just feel like, and that's not to say like Test is the bad kid or anything, because Andrew was a friend of mine and definitely had like great times with him. But any of these guys that tended towards more wild ways, I would sit and I'd watch and I'd laugh at their jokes and I would watch it go down, but I just kind of always stayed away, because at that time my punk rock was my job, was my wrestling, and I was like, nope, this means too much to me to be led down a path that I don't want to go on, I want to be able to perform every day, and I want to feel good, and I want to do as much as I can that's under my control. Things like landing on my head or whatever, like my knee when I tore it, like those things, yes, they're in my control, because I could have just not jumped off the side of the ring apron, but like, but things that I can control, like I can choose to not take a pill. I can choose to not, take steroids. I can choose to not do these things that potentially can put my body into a situation that I don't want to be in. So, it's just kind of something it's just never appealed to me. And I've talked to friends. I've talked with friends over the years in punk rock, in wrestling, everything, that have had problems with either addiction or just things that are not good for them. And I just don't have that thing. Right. Like that thing that just sucks. It's real. It's a real thing that people have, like when they struggle with addiction or when they struggle with that I can validate that is a real thing, but it just doesn't appeal to me when they're like, you don't know what it feels like to, and I've actually talked with DDP, who's
I was
really,
just about to bring it up. I was like, look what he's done with Jake the Snake Roberts and for Scott Hall, who both were just inducted the same weekend that you were inducted. And look at the turnaround that DDP's done for those guys, man.
But DDP has struggled with both, with trying to identify with both Scott and Jake, who are friends of his, who he wants to help go into a good direction. But he's also never had a problem with addiction and never had that. So he's like, there's things that you just like your brain, like my brain just works a different way than like an addict does, So there is a bit of a detach where you kind of just can't relate to that part. And when I first heard about Andrew, the main test, I was like, okay, well, right now he feels nothing because he's no longer with us. But I was like, what hurts me the most is thinking about how troubled and sad and like all these negative, awful feelings, how much he felt before he passed away, and I was like, I hate that for him, and that's a different instance as far as different from Warrior or different from Ed, who was up brushing his teeth that morning before he passed away. It wasn't like a specific drug, like actually related incident, but with wrestlers dying young, there's been all facets. So it's you can't really blanket statement like what attributes to this, that, or other. They're really all individual cases. But, it's like facts are facts. Yes, there have been a lot of people from my business that have died early, but they all still are really individual circumstances. So there's nothing that you can say, if this changed, this exactly prevent these deaths, because they're all individual life paths.
Exactly. I mean, you got everything from like Eddie Guerrero to Chris Benoit. Everything is always different, but the media just wants to paint it like wrestling is killing these guys. They're killing these women. Like, they're adults. Let's remember that, first of all. And for those who are not not going for natural causes like Warrior did, most people, they're choosing the things that they do that may contribute to these certain things. And again,
sure.
I think
Vince
what
has
happens
never pulled me in his office and given me, Vince has never given me any pills or shot me in the ass. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, that's not, so yes, like ultimately you're an adult, but it does not mean I don't have sympathy for these people and they're the really worst, like their families, which, that are left. But it's still, it's like you just have to, just in life and everything, to take responsibility for yourself.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, with people with addiction, I mean, we're all dopamine chasing creatures, right? We all want that reward system. So we're programmed to be addicted. But I think people that have real addiction issues, that's just a real heightened, their brains are just in a different state. So they crave it way more than the average person does. And I think people who don't have that addiction problem really don't understand it, because they just don't have that feeling each day of being compelled to do something.
Or they
right, and that's what I was saying with the not being able to. I can relate as a human nature, like human being,
right.
But not. I can't relate from my brain just functioning differently from somebody else that does stronger facet of that.
Exactly. And then I think it's confusing. They're thinking that their addictions are not addictions compared to someone else. They look at the extreme addictions like drugs, sex, or things like, or food, and see that, those are addictions. But yeah, exactly. But Mike and I talk about this. There's that thirst, like social media. Those people that can constantly, they go to the gym, they have to post that selfie, so they're addicted to the attention. Yes. Like, look at me, I'm at the gym working out and taking the selfie all the time.
Narcissism is their addiction.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another addiction right there. But they don't want to think like, well, it's not like a drug addiction. Yes, it is. Because
like go a whole week without taking a selfie. That's
and
what
see
I
what happens, and
that.
see how you feel.
Yeah, it's like are people that are addicted to working out. I go take a week from, like, I'm taking a week off right now from training because my body was just beat up. I go, I need a week off. It's been great, man. I'm totally getting restored now. I can't wait to jump in later this week. But I know people that are totally beat up, totally under recovered, and even then they're like, well, I'll take a week off, but I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to do that. I'm like, no, that's not a week off. You need a week off mentally as well. It means no working out whatsoever. You want to go walk your dogs? Fine. You want to stay active? No big deal. But you're not going to a gym. You're not picking up weights. You're not going sprinting. If anything, make that week a real recovery week. Go get a massage. Go to a spa.
Get some yoga.
Go get adjusted.
Exactly.
Like
yoga, tai chi, etc.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's the whole thing I'll try to say to people too that are like that. I'm like, you don't get strong in the gym. Like you just, and then your rest and your recovery and your rebuild is where you're getting strong.
But that's not hardcore enough. Sleep is not hardcore though. I got to be working hard in my sleep. I'm like, come on, dude.
Well, some workout is the payoff, right?
Exactly.
They don't care if they're getting stronger. They don't care if they're getting bigger. They don't care if they're getting results, because the payoff is the stimulus of working out.
At least I did it. There are people that are sitting on their asses all day, and at least I go to the gym. I'm dedicated. Like,
it's also a place
and
where
I'll acknowledge that. Like, I mean, there's times if I'm going through something and it's like, all right, there's a lot more unhealthy ways I could be using to deal with whatever's going on in my brain. But you know what? I'm going to work out twice a day. And I acknowledge I'm overtrained. I acknowledge I'm not getting stronger right now. But being in the gym twice a day is helping my brain function better. And it's still giving me a dopamine rush to not be depressed or sitting on the couch or feeling stuff about whatever I'm going on. So yes, I'll acknowledge that, but it's not a general way of life,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a good point too, because those are payoffs that are worth that you don't want to diminish. But I think when someone does it indefinitely, I mean, they've been working out hard and they're just getting unhealthier and unhealthier and unhealthier. Their hormones are a total wreck now. That's when there's a problem there, because I mean, for me, it's all about strength. So if I'm not getting stronger, I'm not getting results, then I know I need to dial things back.
Exactly. It's like,
and I've been through periods like what you're talking about too, Amy, where you want to get the workouts in because you got some personal life stuff going on or whatever it is, where you just feel better after that, and that's fine, that's great. But then there's people where it's all consuming. They want to be in the gym for as long as possible. If they're not in the gym, they're taking pictures of themselves in the gym, to post. And then everything is revolving around this whole thing to the point where it's counterproductive. It's like your life is totally imbalanced. So it's an addiction. I mean, they probably can't drive by a gym without thinking about working out. Maybe I should just pull over right now.
Exactly.
It's like a gambler going to the Las Vegas. They can't drive by a casino without having that compelling feeling to just pull in and go play cards. Now, I love playing cards. I play blackjack, but I can take it or leave it too. I mean, I've been through periods where I'll play every night for a week, and then I won't play for 6 months. But I can drive by any casino at any time, and not be compelled to pull in and play.
Now, what's funny, there's someone listening right now like, well, I'm not that hardcore about my workout. I'm not addicted to any drugs, but they can probably tell you that they're a hardcore reality show junkie. And they will sit there and watch marathons of Real Housewives or whatever bullshit neighborhood is out there this week. And they'll watch those marathons on a Saturday or Sunday or something like that. And they're addicted to that. They're addicted to the drama of other people's lives. So
Come on, sister. You can admit it. Start naming off some of the shows you watch.
Dude, I cannot. I cannot name any of those. As soon as I hear Real Housewives, I'm like, first of all, they're not even Real Housewives. Just stop it. Okay, just stop it. Okay. Because a Real Housewife doesn't have time for you to have cameras in her house. She's like, look, this house is a mess. You can't sit here and film every damn thing. And these kids are getting on my damn nerves. So no, you can't film this because CPS will probably come in and take these kids when I get through spanking them for all the things they're doing right now. So I don't need you documenting what's about to happen here right now. So that's what a Real Housewife is probably like.
That's not your advice.
No, I'm not saying spank those kids, woman. No.
Now, how did you get into? I mean, obviously you had to work out hard when you were a wrestler, but was strength training, being stronger, was that something you were in long before you got into wrestling?
No, so that's okay. As far as there not being internet and not just knowing how to become a wrestler at that time,
right.
As soon as I started watching it and going, okay, like I don't know where a wrestling school is, I don't know how these people got this job, but it looks like a cool job to me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right. Obviously, their moves are based in some sort of martial art. That can't hurt. So that's when I, kind of started taking more martial arts. And then I was like, they're obviously in good physical condition. So I'm going to hit the gym. These are two things that I can do without having like the secret password to get inside the society right. Wrestling. And from there, I'll start seeking out how to find the password. But I'm going to start in on these things. So I got a trainer and hit the gym. Just from wanting to develop as a wrestler. I mean, I was always like active, but never was like in the gym. That just wasn't what I grew up with.
Right.
And so then I got into that. And then it wasn't until after I retired. I stopped working out completely. I was like, I'm never going to work out again, ever, because I had to for my job. I'm going to do whatever I want. And then I started to not feel so great and gained probably 15 pounds. And I was like, okay, that was a bad plan. So how about don't do that. And then I started working out again, but it was so great. It was just from like a completely different angle. Like it was just purely for enjoyment and for being strong and feeling good, as opposed to like, crap, I've got a photo shoot and I've got all these shows and I've got to be in front of people in a half shirt. So I need to work out. It was just like, no, like I want to work out because it's fun and it feels good and I like it and I like being strong. And so now working out from that perspective is just, it's so rewarding and I'm just so much healthier and so much like, remember a friend asked me, she's like, oh, can I take pictures for photo, like she's like a photo student or something. I was like, yeah, sure. What do you give me a couple days or tell me when. She's like, oh, can we do it in 2 days? I was like, yeah, that's fine. And just being able to do a photo shoot, just yeah, I'm not ripped, but I'm like, that's fine. We thinking before about being, okay, we're going to need you to do this photo shoot. I'm in WWE. I'm a professional athlete. So I should be the picture of health. But then to take that photo shoot, I am eating stackers. I'm I drink it. I'm having taken diuretics so that I can be ready that morning. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't wait till we're done taking this photo so I can have a glass of water and a freaking banana, but okay, so what, that's so unhealthy, not cool, not how you want to represent being a professional athlete or being healthy. And then now just being a generally healthy person and just a way better approach to I happen to still look decent, but what's more important is that I'm strong and I feel great.
Exactly. And that's what's really important. So how did you end up turning toward kettlebells and incorporating that in your training as well?
So when we had to work out for WWE, it was basically, it turned into, I think you could maybe use the internet, but you would pull into a gas station and get a freaking phone book and find the Gold's Gym. So that and was how you would have to go find it. Or I actually, even back then, I would use the arena. I'd go, I'd run to the top of the stairs in the arena. I'd do push-ups at the top. I'd run to the bottom. I'd do squats at the bottom, which is actually not which is still closer to actually more what I would do now, as opposed to when I would go to the Golds and isolate and do more bodybuilder style workout to have like my fluffy muscles that I needed for TV. But
Right.
so when I got back into like a boot camp circuit, and I'd never worked out with people before, and I really liked that. I didn't know that I liked that. It was encouraging and it was fun to have accountability and people around. And then it got cold, and I hate being cold. So a friend was a kettlebell instructor, kettlebell gym, and was like, "Oh, well, you should come here for the winter. You know, we have kettlebells here." And I was like, "Well, I'll come for the winter, but you know, I'm going to be outside. That's my thing. That's what I do." And you know, and that was probably five years ago, you know, and I still teach there, and I'm still there, and I still work out outside, but I'll go grab a bell and take it with me to the park.
Perfect.
That's pretty cool. You actually teach there too. Which gym is this?
Is it Delane's?
Yeah, it's Delane's. It's called Gym Condition. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Well, I think we're at the hour mark, so we should wrap this thing up. But Amy, pleasure having you on. Really great.
A lot of fun. A lot of
awesome
fun.
conversation. And we'll definitely
let's plug her. Let's plug. You have a foundation as well, right, Amy?
Okay, cool.
The Adore.
Yeah, I do. I created that. It's a animal welfare organization, and everything's through my website, theamydumas.com. And what I mainly did always with Adore is, it's not if people get it confused, it's like an actual shelter, is I'll find causes, and it's usually for things like spay neuter certificates, and then just raise money and then give it to a shelter to be able to perform spay neuter or things like that. But it's all different. It's just something that I find a goal for, and then just donate to that actual, so they can complete a task.
Okay,
great. Also, is your band on tour right now?
No, Lucha Gores is done. I'm not doing anything musically right now. We did 3 U.S. tours, 3 European tours, and it was just kind of one of those things that I wanted to see what it was like. I played in bands before. I lived in D.C. as well. And and played in bands before, but I was never like in a full-time touring band. So it was just something I wanted to do and see what happened. And so I did, and I saw what happened. In our last tour, we lost a bunch of money, and I was like, okay, so that's cool. That's what happened.
That's what's happened to me sometimes with some of these international courses, teaching kettlebells. I'm like, yeah, that was a great trip. I lost money, but that was a great trip. So now we're going to have to take a look at how to reevaluate some of these different courses to make sure I'm actually making money instead of flying around the world and not making money.
Right.
Sure, but I always say is like a good experience or bad experience is almost as good as a good experience, because it's just about new life experiences and learning stuff and you know, taking more things in. As much, I'm just like a sponge. I just want
to keep that in mind, Sincere. If you're ever arrested and Adebisi is your roommate,
no, there's one experience. That's one experience I'm going to pass on right there.
Yeah, there's a couple experiences I can think of that I really want to pass on. You know?
Tell me about it.
I can go my whole life without finding that experience.
My God.
Also, what's next for you, Amy? What are you working on now?
I'm doing actually a bunch of appearances this year, and I've also hooked up with some people about being on some speaking tours with Vegan Strength and Training, and wrote in with a book with my friend Scott for the who's doing all the proceeds are donated to Mercy for Animals, just about vegan strength training, just because I feel like if I never had any more attention focused on me, I've had enough for a lifetime. But what I've found that I've enjoyed through kettlebell teaching is I just love making people like feel great, and it's just like a lot more attainable than I feel like people get overwhelmed with their daily life. And if there's things I could do to help like kind of break it down for people and make it easier and help them feel stronger and better and cooler, then that's awesome.
Sounds great. Sounds like cool stuff. And yes, shout out to Scott Schattler he's the one who introduced us to you. So Scott's a great guy. He's been on our show, and that was a great project that he put together as well. So I'm glad to see you were part of that.
Yeah, it was cool that he did it. He like had a goal and saw it through. I love it.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again, Amy. Real pleasure talking to you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys too.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
But yeah, that was great having Amy on, man. That was cool. What's her website? Actually, we didn't get her personal website.
Yes, Amy Dumas, or for those who see it, they read it like they see it, amydumas.com. So yes, Amy Dumas.
Just don't say amydumbass.com.
Yeah, because you might get a Hurricane Rama or a Twist of Fate, put on you from that. So if you don't know what those moves are, just go on YouTube and pull that up. Lita, Twist of Fate, and then ask yourself, do I really want to say her name incorrectly like that? So I believe, it's Amy Dumas, amydumas.com. And all that information is there. And you can find her on Twitter and pretty much, I take that back. It's theamydumas.com.
Okay.
There it is. Don't leave out the. So there you go. Or just like I said, just Google her. You'll find all her information right there, man. She's all over the place.
Yeah, cool lady, man. Very, very interesting lady, very intelligent. I like the philosophical side of her as well. Really cool having her on the show. So maybe we'll get her back down the road and see what else she's up to.
Exactly.
But folks, in the meantime, speaking about getting into stuff that you should be wanting to get into, you want to get into our course before it sells out, because we only have 8 spots left, and the price will go up on May 1st, assuming there's any spots left. So email Mike at llapodcast.com or Sincere at llapodcast.com and get signed up for the course by just saying you want in. We'll send you the link. You get signed up. You're all set. 32 people have already signed up from all over the world. This course is going to be a blast. I mean, it's going to be so much fun. I mean, people that have signed up are going, man, I wish September were right now. And a lot of the instructors are feeling the same way. I mean,
right.
Ken was just out here a couple of weeks ago. It's like, I can't wait to come back to work with you guys in Vegas. Sincere, you were here earlier this year, but I think this is going to be a much better trip than that trip you had.
The Rio experience.
Yeah, than the Rio experience. Oh, speaking of which, maybe I'll get a group discount for everyone at the Rio. Yeah, that's going to be the luxury casino that I pick in mind. I think it's either going to be the Rio or Circus, folks. It's going to be a coin toss. It's going to be a coin toss. Treasure Island, if I'm feeling really generous about.
Or Excalibur.
You guys the best. Excalibur. Yeah. And no, Caleb, we're not going to have the group dinner at Dick's Last Resort, okay, buddy?
Yeah,
that one's not on the top of the list.
Yeah, explain that, please.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is. One of our students, a guy named Caleb, said, hey, man, I took a bunch of friends to a place called Dick's Last Resort at Excalibur. I think it would be great for the group dinner for the course. I was like, I don't know, Caleb. I don't really think I want to take anyone to a place called Dick's Last Resort.
I think the name says it all.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anyone to the Excalibur, period. Because it's worth missing. Some things in life are worth going after. Some things are worth missing. And the Excalibur is one of those things. You can come to Vegas every weekend for the next 5 years and never go to the Excalibur, and you wouldn't have missed out on a thing.
So there you go, folks. Hit us up with that email, get that link, get signed up. See you in September. Let's have fun that weekend. It's gonna be the best 2 days. If you're smart, maybe 3, 4, 5, who knows how many days. I would say make an entire experience out of it. Make a vacation out of it, man. Bring your family, not to the course, but bring them to Vegas. And so after you train, we're finished training those couple of days, you can hang out and just like I said, just enjoy Vegas, man. So
it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a killer time. And in the meantime, make sure you use coupon code LLA to get 10% off any of my nutrition supplements, my testosterone booster, Restore Slime, get rid of those aches and pains, recovery oil, give you some deep sleep, get that restoration in, or any of my videos, my T-shirts, basically the whole shebang, and just about everything on my website. And you also get the hookup with Sincere. What can they get with you, man?
So, hop over to my site, use the same coupon code LLA, go to newwarriortraining.com, and you'll get 30% off of the physical or digital copy of my bodyweight training DVD. So you can train anywhere, anytime. You can do all those things Lita was talking about inside the arena, but you can do that with the moves that I show you on the DVD. So, or you can go outside.
That's a good segue.
Or you can go outside, just like Lita said. She likes to train outside. These exercises were designed just for that. Otherwise, you can also use that same coupon code and get 30% off of my Weight Management 101 course. And there you have more control over what goes in your body, how your body operates. You understand how it all works out, how to put a plan together, and then you'll be a more educated consumer and take control of your health and not just hand it over to someone else. So again, use that coupon code and you get 30% off of those two things. All right.
All right, folks. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Take care, folks.